This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 165, recorded on May 1st, 2014. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all of your favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home, news, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in Bellevue, Nebraska, and we post the show, of course, with world-class show notes each week out at theaverageguy.tv. If you have questions, comments, or contributions, you can contact the show. Just send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv, or you can find me on Twitter. That's just @jcollison, or now you can call in those questions. And actually, I mentioned last week Kyle called in the questions, but he called one in for Cyber Frontiers. So we'll play that one on the Cyber Frontiers the next time we do that show. But you can call those in 402-478-8450, and we'll play your question right here on the show. Love to have you do that if you got some feedback or some ideas of some things you'd like to hear on the show. And now Home Gadget Geeks is a part of the Geeks Network. I never say that line right. Is now a part of the Geeks Network. Find the links to this show and many other great podcasts over at thegeeksnetwork.com, and Dave continues to upgrade that site, so hopefully there'll be some working links over there when you get there. Join us in chat, watch or listen to the live show, and find all the navigation in the upper right-hand corner of theaverageguy.tv. All right, a friend of the show, he's back again, Michael Crump, and Michael, welcome back. It's good to have you.
Oh, well, thank you so very much for having me back again. I'm always surprised that you invite me back.
No, I love having you on. It's good to have you. Tell me. Well, let's say this. Let me do some housekeeping first with you. First of all, I had David Washington on the show last week. Now, I interviewed both David and you at the Heartland Developer Conference way back last fall, I want to say. We just went through another conference here in town. So Infotech 2014, AIM runs that one here in town. They have since taken over the management of Heartland Developer Conference. And David said he's going to be there. Are you thinking you might come back for?
Has the call for papers actually?
I'm not sure. You might want to.
Went out yet? Because what I do is I look for the call for papers. And then I look at my schedule and see if it's crazy enough. And if it's not that crazy, then I sign up, and I just hope that they accept me.
Well, you probably always have a couple sessions in the can, right? You can just pull them out.
Oh, yes. And it's funny is that, like, at the end of the year, like around November or December, that's usually when I'm writing some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about the next year. And so I have them ready to go by January the 1st. I'm ready, locked to go. And then obviously as tech changes, I mean, we just had a Windows Phone 8.1 SDK, so I had to adapt, to that, obviously. So I just am finishing a Universal Apps presentation, so there, I have to always keep evolving, kind of with this technology thing that we're in right now.
Yeah. No, I should take a key. I do recruiting for Gallup, so I go around the country, college campuses. Actually, today I was on a high school campus here in Omaha.
Sweet.
And I have some presentations that I just have ready. Right, I actually have 2 or 3, and when I pop in, and I say, okay, how much time do I have? What do you want me to talk about? And then can I get to a projector? Those are like the 3 questions I ask. And then based on the answers, I kind of have a presentation ready to go, right? You just pull that up. What I need to do is I need to spend some time this summer coming up with 1 or 2 tech-oriented sessions like you do, and just have those in the can, have the synopsis and the syllabus or the syllabi, and the whole, because that whole paper submitting process is always messy, and you hate to do that. You always find out about it 2 days before the conference.
Copy and paste.
Yeah, and just have it ready, copy and paste it in. And my goal, I think, for 2015 is get invited to speak in 2 different conferences. So that's the goal for 2015.
Oh, you could easily accomplish that.
So,
easily. Yeah. So I'm at the point where I copy and paste. I use Chrome autofill for all of those things. The abstracts is actually I just keep those in a text file because a lot of the times I'm going back through and I may change the abstract to something else, and then I just want to have it ready. So immediately when the call for papers comes out, I can breeze through it. And if you've spoken somewhere like in the past, a lot of the times they still have like your login information, and the only thing you really have to change, is maybe if you want to update, a bio, or something like that, or pick, so but it's a fairly simple process after a while.
Yeah, well, here's what I'm thinking is I've been really getting into Azure lately, and so
Cool.
I'm thinking like in not the super techie stuff, but the average guy Azure stuff. So, how to set up like web services, WordPress, all these podcasting, so it fits in with what I'm doing. But, so it might be a session on how to support, a blog and a podcast using Azure and WordPress, right?
Let me tell you,
Something like that.
stuff like that, like stuff like starting a podcast, stuff like how do I equipment wise, to like the blogging engines, and like Ghost is a very popular one, that is used by Azure. So there's a lot of topics that could actually come out of something like that, because
Yeah.
people don't know what to do. Like, how do I get my podcast on iTunes? Because
Right.
iTunes is the big, or I can. I'm obviously a huge Apple fan as well as a Microsoft fan, but iTunes is where I go when I'm looking for a podcast. I'm going to be on a flight for the next 8 hours, or if I'm having to take a trip to San Francisco or wherever, I've got a 5-6 hour flight ahead of me. Um, I'm looking at where iTunes, downloading all the podcasts that I like. You know, these are the sort of things that developers that or anybody that IT pro that is looking to get into doing this sort of thing wants to know, and they want the information quick. And that's why sessions do very, very well. I created my very first soft skills talk um, this year.
Now, what does that mean when you say soft skills?
So soft skills talk is basically when the technical developer or a technical type of person um, creates a talk that has absolutely nothing to do with like opening Visual Studio or opening Xcode or opening some sort of IDE, but they create a talk that is simply on some sort of soft skills that may help a developer. So a communications, how to better communicate maybe with a manager or boss, how to be a remote worker. And I created one that was called 11 Tips to Become a Great Developer. And I had, this is the talk, obviously it's nothing but slides. And so I have about 60 or so slides. So I have about a minute per slide. And I was actually at Orlando when I gave the talk for the very first time. And there were so many people in the room, I couldn't actually walk around. And there's a picture of it that some guy took, but the picture that he took didn't include everybody, but it still showed like a full, complete room, and I mean, it was really successful, and it was just on my own, you know, top 10, top 11 list or whatever that I come up with every once in a while, and it was received very well there, and I've given it just one time after that, but it turned out really well.
If folks, I should have said this right up front, but let's talk about your blog real quick because you have a lot of you put a lot of helpful stuff out at your blog. So if I wanted to find that again,
Yes,
where do I go to find that?
yes, michaelcrump.net
Super easy.
is the very is the place to find me, and from there you can find everything else that I'm pretty much linked to, including my Twitter account, which is just at mbcrump. And I love connecting with people on Twitter and things like that. I have conversations with people that I met at a conference, um, you know, 5, 6 years ago. Still, it may have carried on through like email, and now it's on to Twitter, and I mean that's just kind of now the go-to way to keep in touch with people.
Yeah, no, it really is. I'm actually I sent some notes through Facebook today, and if I can avoid email in a lot of ways, I am. Although for enterprise, that is still the go-to way to go. So, well, I will need to. So you've inspired me a little bit too, and I've been thinking about this, but I need to put that. So this summer, I'm going to put a presentation or two together. It'll probably be. So I've coined this idea of social marketing. I'm not sure if I'm the first guy to say that, but this idea of social marketing, and so it'll be something around using blogging and podcasting to improve your social marketing skills or something like that, and then we'll spend some time spinning up. I'll show folks how easy it is to spin up an Azure instance, spin up WordPress, and then the various things you can do to create your own blog and your own podcast, right? Just some tips on getting that done. Then maybe out of that would spin out an in-depth on podcasting or an in-depth on blogging or an in-depth on Azure or an in-depth on WordPress.
And yeah, and you know what you could actually do with that? You could actually turn that into a workshop where a lot of conferences now, and DEF CON is a conference that is in Boston that's going to be at the end of May. And so I submitted a couple of sessions there, and it was regarding writing your first native Android application. And they decided to combine those into a workshop instead of just multiple sessions, because they would have to keep me in the same room, try to keep the audience, etc. So they put it in a workshop, which I was actually fine with, because that means I have my own dedicated space and I have more time. So that would be great for something like that.
Yeah. Do you ever get any feedback, any real negative feedback from, there's always somebody in the crowd, right? I'm sure you get lots of positive feedback, but do you get that negative stuff too?
Yes, I've had negative feedback before. Absolutely. So, what's really great is that so according to where you're at, the feedback is different. So when I was in Sweden, they use cards, or whether there is a laptop, not a laptop, an iPad with red, yellow, and then green. Red if you didn't like it, obviously green if you liked it. And it was my only session that I've ever given anywhere where I had a 100% positive audience. And then I look back at other sessions. So I had a full crowd at Orlando, and it was a well-received talk. It was they gave our ratings out, and out of 5, it was in the high 4s. And obviously there's always like that one person and he said his comment was something along the lines of, oh, I thought this was going to be like how to use Google Chrome developer tools versus what you actually talked about. in
Right.
in my in my when I did the talk for the second time, I actually put in my slide, this talk is not about Google Chrome dev tools. So yeah, and the thing is that you not only get that, so criticism is something that you not only get, at like the conference level, you get that obviously on blogs and stuff like that. And you have to eventually, you have a thick skin, after a while. People on the internet are pretty mean, and if you allow them to kind of get to you, I'll never forget it. I had this one guy, and this is a totally truth. I've even got the email still, I think. He wrote me a letter, and so I've been blogging for years, and he wrote me an email, and he said, I hate you and everything that you do. And I got the email, and I'm completely shocked because I get a lot of positive feedback. Because
Yeah.
one of the things that you may notice if you visit my blog is that so I don't have any ads. I don't have any. I'm not making a dime off
And
of.
you don't even do affiliate links, do you?
No, there's no affiliate links. There's no ads. I'm completely not making a cent off of my blog. Everything that I put on there, all of the stuff is free. It's just for the community. It's just something that I want to do. I don't feel that I have to do it. It's just something I want to do. It's just like, trying to exercise and, run 3 times a week, which has kind of been my goal here lately. I do it for free, and to get that sort of feedback, it's like, wow, because I get a lot of positive stuff, and I get a lot of things that people have found, from years back, even on blogs, a blog that I don't even use anymore, which is Geeks with Blogs. People have had found links on that and have sent me questions and like, oh, I really appreciated this article, and I was like, oh, that's great, thanks. And then all of a sudden you get this, and so yeah, I've had it in a variety of forms. I've had it on Twitter as well.
Right,
I've had
right.
people really dislike things that I've said on Twitter. Obviously, there's certain topics that I can't talk about on Twitter um, without really stirring up the pot. And even though what I say is not representative of Telerik, people associate me now with that company, and so things that I say is a lot of the times tied, to the company, even though I'm not a spokesperson for the company in any way. And you can put that on your bio, my opinions are my own, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it doesn't
No, they
matter.
don't care. Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't care. Yeah, you don't. I've been real fortunate with Gallup not to be associated too much. I mean, it's good and bad, but they haven't. People have not blamed me for things that they've seen. At Gallup we do public opinion polling, and if you don't like it, you hate Gallup, and if you do like the results, you love us. And it's one of those kinds of things, if our Obama numbers are down, we're an Obama hater. But if we report something a little too far on the other side with Obama, then the Republicans jump on us, and you guys love Obama. I mean, I've seen tweets in the same, like, in the stream, one guy blaming us and one guy hating us and one guy loving us for the exact same number, you know. And it's like, hey, we don't actually care. We're just reporting what people say, right? Kind of those things. But you can just get laid. You put yourself out there. This is one of those things, that comes under the title, no good deed goes unpunished, right? In that you put yourself out there. And many of the guys that are listening now, as I think about both in the live and if you're listening to the recorded version of it, the reason they listen to this podcast is they like to help people with their tech, right? That's kind of the crowd that I've drawn for whatever reason. If you're listening for some other reason, I'd love to know why, but most of the guys listen because they're the neighborhood tech guy, or they're the family tech guy, or they're the part-time tech guy, or whatever, right? They just love tech. Well, that just you're inviting. Anytime you open yourself up that way, you are inviting people to come in and just smash you for the best intentions, right? I mean, how many times? In fact, I'd love to hear from you. This would be a great thing to call in. So 402-478-8450. Call in and tell me a time that you meant to do something good and you just got hammered for it. Because that happens, right? That happens way more than it should. You're just doing something nice and you think, oh, they're gonna love this, and then boom, they bring the hammer down.
Yeah, well, so you've got somebody that says, "Hey, I've got a PC that's broken. I've got some data on it that's sensitive. Can you help me out a little bit?" The next thing you know, you come over there with your USB hard disk to save the day. You pull their data off. Their operating system's completely corrupt, so you're going to have to format it or something like that. So you format their hard drive, you get Windows or whatever installed again, and then the next thing you know, they ask you, well, where's those photos at? Oh,
Exactly.
I got all of the photos that you told me. You said they were in this directory, and I copied them all over here. You just left out all of
I
my
know. I
children's
know, and you
photos.
feel bad. I've done that before. I've lost people's pictures, or whatever, and you're like, I'm sorry. I did the
Which,
best I could,
which,
and
and you know what's really bad about all of that is that I made a really bad mistake. Big mistake. So I was doing something to help a local school here. A local school, they didn't have really any nice computers at all. I had one PC that I had built for it was kind of a media server, but I wasn't really using it anymore for a media server. And I've kind of moved on to a couple of other different types of boxes, like Google Chromecast and things like that. So I didn't need it anymore. So I decided that I would just go ahead and format the machine. And so I formatted it. I put Windows 7 on it. I put a valid registration key in it. I went up to the school. I helped the network people. The computer was in there. I watched the kids just get all excited. And I came back home and I was feeling really good about that day. And I was thinking, this is what it's all about.
You should make me a saint.
This box was about a couple $100, but I spent a lot of my own free time to help them out. It was great. And then the next thing that I realized was that my son, I actually had some videos of his baby years that was only stored on that one box that I formatted.
Ooh.
Gone.
You lost your own pictures at that point.
I lost it. Well, they were
Yeah.
movies. They were
Yeah.
just home movies that I had
Right.
made of my son, and there was quite a few of them. And obviously, they're gone forever. Now at this point, I went back and looked and looked and looked to see where they were at. But besides getting the hard drive back and seeing if I could somehow grab them from there, it's gone forever. And it was
Yeah.
really bad because I wanted to do something really good for the school.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you start with the best intentions. We had, a home server guy, right? A home server MVP. I talk about backup all the time. I mean, if there's anybody who should never lose anything, right, it's me. And so, and I've told this story, but I'm sure we have some new listeners. So my wife had spent weeks putting this graduation video together for my oldest, and it was, I mean, lots of pictures and music, and it was good. I mean, just tears, and I mean, it was so good. And so it was on a laptop. We had taken it and played it a couple times, and it was on this laptop, and the laptop went down. And I thought, oh, well, okay, it's backed up somewhere. So I start pulling it off the backup, and the home server goes down in the process. And so
Wow.
I'm fighting now with these two things, and I made one mistake by formatting instead of reinstalling or whatever with the home server version 1. All gone, right? Lost it completely. It's gone,
Oh, wow.
never to come back again. And I remember at the end of the evening, I had to go upstairs and say,
It's gone.
it's gone. It's and you could recreate it, right? I mean, it's not like it's gone. Some of the photos were still there, but all the work for the transitions, and they were timed perfectly to the music, and just gone. And it's just so heartbreaking when you do stuff like that. You're like, I'm an idiot. Why didn't I think more clearly when? Yeah. So yeah. So Lop is saying I'm not a home server MVP. I changed since the last time I talked to you. Microsoft has changed me to a Windows expert. So now
Oh, sweet.
I'm a Windows expert. That doesn't really mean I know anything about.
Well, well, remember, I'm still in the Silverlight category, and by the looks of the MVP site, if somebody were to need Silverlight's services, there's only 12 left in the world. So you would think that my rate just went way up. Unfortunately, there's zero people developing
Nobody's
Silverlight
calling for
applications.
Silverlight at this point.
There's no phone calls.
Yeah.
I mean, this
Yeah. 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 No, there's
it's
nobody
not
left.
ringing. It's not ringing at all. Nothing. Nothing. They're
Exactly.
done. They're
No,
done with
no
me.
Silverlight. Well, and I feel a little guilty about moving on to the Windows expert side, especially with all the changes in Windows. Let me run this by you. You're kind of a blogger podcaster with me, and a lot of the listeners have been listening to me for a long time, like 4 years. I've done a lot of soul searching around podcasting over the last couple of years. Even with blogging, right? You wonder, you do all this blogging, like we talked about. You wonder, is anybody out there listening, or watching or reading, whatever. And we started 4 years ago, and we started all this tech podcasting. Honestly, there was not that much out there, right? There was a little bit. There were some folks coming on, but there was like Laporte and a few others. But it has gotten so crowded in the tech space, you know. there are so many, and especially podcasting. If you go out there now, there's so many guys who are doing what I'm doing, which is, get on live on a Thursday night, find some guests to come on, find some community guys, right, that'll come on and chat about tech and stuff like that. But really, the hopes of the space is so crowded. I don't really, if I ever have any expectations of climbing over 1,000 or 2,000 people to listen to the podcast, I'm gonna have to really work it hard, to make that kind of thing happen. And so you start thinking, should I keep going? Because there's so many better, or I think of like Windows Weekly, right? We spend a lot of time talking about Windows on our program. Windows Weekly, I mean, they got two of the best in the industry out there covering information that's already been covered. Why would I regurgitate? They do a two-hour podcast every week. Why would I regurgitate the same news? Or talk about you even mentioned to me, hey, let's talk about a little bit about Windows 8.1. Well, chances are most of the listeners have already heard that 4 or 5 times on various podcasts.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that there's always, and this is what I found, there's always a big difference at times of opinions, and there's different types of thought leadership. So Laporte and Leo Laporte and the rest of the crew, they may have their own thought leadership, but remember, like those guys and some of the other ones, they don't actually work at a company that may be doing some of this stuff for real life. So like even
True.
when I work at Telerik, obviously I've been at Telerik for several years, and when you're actually out there writing the code and you're interfacing with customers, I believe that you have a different view versus and there's lots of developer podcasts, and I've been on a lot of those developer podcasts, and those guys all work in different industries. So you have like the healthcare, people in healthcare. You have the people, that is just the consultants. You have people like me that's kind of in this weird kind of mix because, I work with third-party UI controls, and also I work with some of our new stuff now, which is like cross-platform mobile application development and things like that. And there's a lot of people in that space, but you offer a different opinion versus some of the bigger names, and I'll tell you, I mean, to me, I mean that's worth it all. I mean,
All right. Well, I'm not saying I'm giving up.
yeah.
I love what I do. It's just one of those questions. Let me throw it out to the listener, right? If you're listening to this podcast, and we get a couple dozen that join us live, maybe a dozen or so that join us live each week. You guys, I know you guys come back every single week. I know you out there. Although Eddie, it's great to have you out here. We don't get to see you very often out there, but Lopta and Jeff and Ken and Rennie and other Jim and those guys that join us every single week. You guys know this, but if you're one of the other 995, because I get about 1,000 every week, and you're listening to this, I would love to know. It's just one of those things. As a podcaster, every once in a while, it's great to hear from you guys and say, what do you like best? What are some things that we do here on the podcast that you, and I didn't intend to do this tonight, but it was just a perfect segue into this. What do you like? What kind of things? You can call that in, that number 402-478-8450. Send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. Send that in. Chat, if you're listening live, what do you guys like? Throw that in there. What do you find helpful? Because it is why we do what we do, right? We're here to help people. You blog because you want to put some information out there to be helpful to people, right? And there's an advantage to you. You want to be known. I mean, everybody wants to be known and respected in what they do, right? And so that's an opportunity for you to do that.
Absolutely, and and the thing of the one thing that I think I talk about in my being a great developer is when you start blogging, you start talking or podcasting or whatever, it's showing people what you've done and what you have you've worked towards, and you get the people that enjoy your work, and then you may get the people that don't enjoy your work and stuff like that. But
Well,
it's
they can
it's
go somewhere else, right?
exactly.
If they don't like your work, why are you listening? That's the thing that cracks me up. If you don't, and I will tell people this, if I get an email that's like, I don't like what you're doing, go somewhere else. There's so many options right now. Just go somewhere else.
Well, and I mean, so like for blogging and stuff, I'm a big believer. So I think we talked about this before, but I'm a big believer that like for technical jobs, um, uh, I've helped out in the past with the interview process here at the company, and I'll look more at your blog and GitHub, your GitHub repository and things of that nature than I ever have looked at as far as like college degrees and stuff. And I graduated from college and stuff, but the thing is that I find that the guys that are blogging, that are keeping up with tech, that are writing an article, or maybe, I mean, it could even just be a short post on something that they figured out, a workaround to. And some of my most popular posts are not the posts that I spent maybe 10 hours, really 10 hours writing. I've got blog posts that took about that long, but they were the ones that took literally 15 minutes. So like blog posts that I've found fixes for things that other people have run into. I had one for Windows 8 8.1 update where you could copy and paste a shell script. I mean a batch file, whatever, or command file, if you want, so if you want to use the new stuff, and it would actually automatically update your box to Windows 8.1 update 1. And some of these blog posts did really, really well, and I literally wrote them like, sitting on the couch, it's 10 o'clock at night, and I'm just writing it because I know I'm not going to remember how to do it 2 weeks from now. And I write it for myself, and the next thing I know, some of it I don't even tweet, and other people pick it up, and it just goes crazy. I mean, that's been
Yeah,
the kind of the story of
yeah.
my whole.
No, it's really interesting. You say that, right? And you say it's something you wrote at 10 o'clock at night. I'll say about 2 years ago. Yeah, it was about two, maybe even three. I needed to do something, and I was what was it? So I think Windows Live Essentials had just come out, and Windows 7 had just come out, and so I wrote a quick little post about blogging on Windows 7 with Windows Live Essentials. And it's a quick little post, a couple screenshots. There were some quirky things about it that I wrote about. I literally wrote it about 30 minutes before a home server show. I mean, I just sat down, and not even for the show, right? It was one of those things, like you said. I wanted to remember it. I knew I would probably forget it if I didn't get this. It was one of those quirky things. I thought, well, maybe somebody else will benefit from this. And I think on my site it's called, blogging on Windows 7 with Windows Live Writer 2012 or something like that, right? And I posted it. I didn't even think twice about it. That has been my number 3 or number 4 post every month since I posted it.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just right. I mean, something so simple. You think, oh, this is just for me. Gets picked up, and it gets read all the time. It's crazy.
I did one that was on SQL Server. So I'm working right now with SQL Server 2014, but I'm not working with it on a production level. I'm working on it as I'm doing a prototype. I'm writing a prototype, and so I needed to install it, but I needed to install it on Windows 8, which you can install it on Windows 8. Obviously, there's dedicated operating systems that's probably more optimized for. But I needed to install it. There was an error that pops up, and I reported the error on my blog. And just one workaround. On Twitter, a whole bunch of people got involved, and they got down to the very bottom of it, of what was actually causing the error on Windows 8.1 Update 1 installing SQL Server Standard Edition. And so I had a workaround. They provided another workaround. I didn't even blog about it because mine was fine. It worked for me and for what I needed, and I was able to do my work that I needed to do at Telerik. But it was one of those things, just those small posts they get picked up, and
Yeah.
everybody should do it. Everybody should have a blog. I mean, now it's so cheap. I mean, even if you just go to WordPress and you get your free WordPress account and you buy a domain at Namecheap.com for $10 a year, that's really all that you need. I mean, you'll have ads, obviously, if you just use
Well,
WordPress.com.
you can use Azure though in WordPress
Yeah,
and do it completely free with no ads. Right
yeah,
now, you're going to get an Azure URL. It's going to be whatever you name it,
Azure
.azurewebsites.net or
websites.
what, right?
Yeah,
But still, that URL doesn't really. You can still do a hard redirect in your DNS. Your provider, your host provider, your like Hover is who I use.
yes.
But you can do a hard redirect for that, and folks will find it. I mean, here's another thing that's amazing to me, right? So 7 years ago, I started 3 different enterprise blogs, and those were kind of the genesis of the blogs that I have today, right? And they were all Blogspot blogs. So it was like the average guy. I think one was like
Hmm.
jimtheaverageguy.blogspot.com. One was like the average tech guy.blog, something like that. These 3 blogs every once in a while, one of those still gets hit, right? I'll get a note, or somebody will, even worse, somebody subscribes to it.
Oh, yes.
I haven't updated it in 5 years.
I have
Right.
a Blogspot, I have a Geeks with Blog account, and then I decided to roll my own with FunnelWeb, which is what I use right now. FunnelWeb's an MVC3 open source blog engine, and really, if I could kind of go back in time, I went with an open source project. Obviously, WordPress is open source as well, but I went with FunnelWeb at the time because I really liked the flexibility of being able to change the blog engine any way that I wanted to, um, because I already knew what I was doing. And with WordPress, there was still a lot of stuff that I didn't know.
Mhm.
I didn't know how to configure. So today, if I could go back in time, I would probably go back with a WordPress-based personal blog. Like a personal blog, to me, it doesn't need the power behind like a blog that's going to get like crazy, crazy, crazy amounts of traffic that needs like a real CMS, or something like that. So yeah. So anyway,
Are you saying WordPress isn't a real CMS? Is that what you just said?
no. WordPress is really,
Folks, we got
really,
to live
yeah.
tweet that right now. Michael Crump says WordPress is not a real CMS. You could have a new Twitter account called Michael Crump Cares.
When I really think of CMSs, and it's not because I work here, but Sitefinity is one CMS. Obviously, it is by Telerik. Um, you know,
Mhm.
it's one of those that I use on a daily basis. So we use our own stuff for our internal blogs. So I use it. I've seen the mobile capabilities of it, and we get a lot of traffic, and getting that amount of traffic, I believe you really need something a lot more powerful than FunnelWeb. Now, like I said, I haven't done the comparison with WordPress, but I can say that I
Oh,
I
I know
would
how you really feel about WordPress.
I would feel confident. Um,
Yeah, but I think you're right. The average guy, and that's why we call this the average guy, right? That's why the site is. I really try to create a site for the average guy or gal, right? Gals included, although we don't get many gals, but for the average guy, for the most part, WordPress is fine, right? If you're gonna
oh, it is
create your own
absolutely.
blog site, and I would, it's a great exercise. I have 2, right? I have the averageguy.tv, which most of you know. If you're listening right now, you know that, right? That's how you get all this tech information. But a while back, I started a blog called theaverageguy.me, and it's just my personal blog, right? So for $15 or 20, whatever the ME, domain is, whatever that is, a year, I have theaverageguy.me, and that's my running stuff. So for me, every time I do a race, I scan in the race bib, I put that on the site. I write up a little stuff about it. And when you're writing it up, you're like, this is so dumb. I'm going to remember this. You don't, right? Because last year I was filling in a bunch this weekend, and I was catching up. I got about 3 races behind, and I was catching up. And like you said, like you write this stuff down to remember it, you do forget it. And I was going back to some posts from a year ago, and I was like, oh, holy crap, I forgot that had happened at that race, or I forgot. And it's such a nice, guys used to give me a hard time. Oh, it's, diary. You're a blogger. You're just writing in a diary. Well, that's kind of what it is. But it's a good reminder if you want to go back and remember some of those things. A blog is, and you don't, by the way, you say you don't have to share it. And in WordPress, you don't even have to share it to Google. You can click that off and say, don't share this with search engines. And
Yeah,
it can
so
just be for you.
yeah, and that's the same way with funnel web. I mean, you can shut it off where all of the meta tags completely disappear. So if a search engine kind of crawls it, I mean, they're just crawling it for, regular random text. And that's kind of it. But yeah, so I can't remember things. I mean, literally after right now I deal with so much different tech. So for example, I'll be at Tech Ed in 2 weeks. This is in Houston, and I'll be at Tech Ed, and I'll be at a user group talking about universal Windows apps. Um, 2 weeks from then, I'll be in Boston talking about how to build native Android apps. 1 week from then, I will be at WWDC. I'll be at AltConf talking about how to build native iOS apps.
Have you ever got any work done for Telerik?
No, this is for
No, but it
Telerik.
seems like, I mean, you speak a lot, but you work for them as well, right? I mean, or is your job?
100%. I'm
Yeah,
full time, 100% full
yeah.
time. So yeah, it is very hard to get a lot of other things done. Obviously, the mornings, first thing, I always do it, and I probably shouldn't, but I look at emails and I look at which ones that, I can answer immediately, or which ones, are going to require a little bit more time. But I kind of plan out my day, and then if I need to just disconnect, sometimes I have to close Twitter. Sometimes I have to close Link. I'd usually keep Skype open all day long because that's the way that I've always told people. You can reach me on Skype. You can find me there. I have a premium account. It has call forwarding, so it goes to my cell phone even if you can't find me on there. But I'll turn off everything if I have to, in order to concentrate. And I also, I work, where if I need 3 hours for something, I'll block it off on my calendar and I devote those 3 hours to it, and I just close Outlook. So the distractions, and also remember, I do have the benefit of being a remote worker. So I don't have drive-bys.
Yeah, you don't have people coming by bothering you.
As a
Hey, you got a minute?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
when I close out of Link, that disconnects me from the company. They can reach me through Skype, obviously, or they can call my cell phone, or we have other programs that we use internally that they can catch me on. But I don't have the person that comes by my cubicle that completely screws me up for, 30 minutes to an hour. Obviously, if I'm on one of the other company um, networks, then somebody will probably, they may pull me into something. But most of the time, being a remote worker, you can stop some of that, and you can also, just block out those things and say, hey, I'm busy. I'm busy for these 3 hours or whatever, and you know that's kind of how I'm able to get other things done, because like even tomorrow, I mean, I have my whole day planned out tomorrow, starting from like in the morning. Like today, I had almost every hour planned out for today, and I even had this our call tonight logged as time, that this is going to be my time with this. And the ones that's after 5, I actually send my wife a meeting invite.
That's a great idea. Sort of. If you want accountability, that's a great idea.
I sent her a meeting invite where she actually sees, okay, so Michael, I need you for this day. And if like I'm going to tech ed, I'm leaving on a Sunday, which is Mother's Day, so I've got to make it up with my mom on Saturday. But so on that one, for example, I send that to my wife. She knows exactly what time my flight leaves, what time I get back. Um, so she's got that info.
Hmm.
That works out very, very well. Like tonight, it was, she knows where I'm at. When I visit different podcasts and chat with different people in the community, she knows, oh, okay, well on this night, Michael's doing this. So and then I do local user groups to, just whatever, whatever pops up. Or I may even actually get to sneak out and watch a movie that she doesn't want to watch. Now we have our date nights, but there is a really good movie coming out, Sin City 2, Part 2 with Frank Miller, and I'm a big Frank Miller fan of his work. So that's one of those movies that I'll just sneak out to.
Yeah, well, it's good to get away. It's good. That's a great idea. I think that's a great tip too. A lot of guys ask me, how do you do so many podcasts, right? Because I'm on a lot, right? I
I,
mean, I'm on
I
two.
see your tweets.
Yeah,
I see your tweets.
I'm on a lot, and probably more than I should be. But Tuesday nights with Dave over at homeservershow.com, and we're kind of down to every other week now. That's kind of been our schedule every week, faithfully for the most part, about 50 weeks a year here. Then I started a Saturday morning podcast with Dave Jackson, Ask the Podcast Coach, I'm really enjoying that one over at schoolpodcasting.com. And
Cool.
then work kicked up, right? So work podcasting has kicked up. So if you go to coaching.gallup.com, you'll see all the Gallup. And Michael, I got to be honest with you, podcasting with 200 people live, and guys, no offense to the guys we have in the live chat room. You guys, I know you guys better than I know almost anybody out in the chat, and it's fun. That's the right reason I come out on Thursday nights. But it's a whole different feel with 200 in chat or 400 in chat or 600 live than it is when you have, when it's just the family that has come in. But back to the point, people have asked me, how do you do so much? And one, I clear everything with Sarah, so she knows. Like Thursday nights are standing, right? Tuesday nights now standing. She knows I've got those nights I'm using that stuff, and and we've been married 25 years. You find other things to do. We're just not that interesting anymore. So, you do those kinds of things. I don't have young kids, right? My kids are older. They take care of themselves for the most part. They're hanging out up there. And so it allows me, and then I try to get super efficient with my podcast, right? Two of them that I'm on, I don't even produce. I just jump on, talk, and leave. And on the Home Server Show lately, I
See,
don't do that much talking.
that's the way I roll.
Yeah,
You
right.
know,
Right. You don't have to do, and then you do a nice job of cross promoting, right? Every time you're on
oh,
here,
absolutely.
you put that on, and your YouTube videos do really, really well when we put them out there.
I was on one with I think it was gosh, I always butcher the name, but it's in Australia, and SXX. I don't want to look it up because it's going to like embarrass me.
South by Southwest.
No, it's
Oh,
not them. It's I think it was SSX.
hmm.
Let's see. Anyway,
I had your site up a
I
second.
will. I was gonna say I usually post whenever I'm on somewhere, but I was on SSW. That's it.
There you go.
I was on SSW. This was January the 10th of
Oh yeah,
this
we
year.
talked about that the last time you were on the
Yeah,
show.
yeah, yeah. And so that one, I mean, it was great. You get on, you chat, and they had a ton of probably don't want me telling me this, but they had a ton of problems with audio, video, and we restarted like multiple times throughout it. And so we would continue conversations where like we were talk, and then 20 minutes later, they would say we lost all that audio.
Oh,
Can we re-record that?
oh,
And
that's so
and so
brutal.
we're re-recording over and over and over. And so I'm talking to they had an editing guy that was there, and I was like, I feel so sorry for you because when you get all of this footage and you've got to piece all of this together. I was like, this is going to be brutal. And needless to say, I mean, I watched, I can't say that I watch all of the stuff that I'm on, but I watched parts of it, and it flowed as if it was one continuous conversation, and it was probably about 20 different
Yeah,
conversations.
I know it's probably about 3 hours worth of editing to get that. People have no idea what it takes. When we talk about podcasting and the amount of effort for both video and audio. It's the rendering. I mean, I start this process on Friday night by downloading the video, and it takes a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes to get that downloaded. But then I've got to load that into our video editor. That runs for about 30 minutes while it renders all that and then adjusts the sound and does all that stuff. And then video editing is very complicated. So, and I don't
See,
do very much.
and so I started earlier. I think it was maybe at the mid of last year, mid last year. I started doing Pluralsight courses. And so I have 2 Pluralsight courses that I've released. And so with Pluralsight, you do your own video editing. And, you produce your course. You produce your course, and basically you can take different types of payment options. They're really great about royalties and things of that nature. And I decided, hey, I want to enter the Pluralsight space. Needless to say, I really knew nothing about video editing and the painful, brutal process that was going to be. So I learned very quickly. So I have released one course this year, and I've been pinged about doing another course. And I'm kind of like, let me think about that just a little bit. It's different. It's totally different when you just hand it off to somebody else and let them do it.
Yeah, no, it's totally different. Let me tell you. So, we started the show by talking about Infotech and Heartland Developer Conference, and I actually met you last fall at the Heartland Developer Conference, and I did 16 or 17 videos at the Heartland Developer Conference, and you'd think, okay, well, let's get those produced and up. Well, it's about 45 minutes to an hour per post to get those downloaded, edited, put up, bio information, session information, your links, and then post it. And last year with Heartland Developer, I got so busy I just punted. Those just stayed out in a YouTube list somewhere. I never did anything with them. Had you guys send me some information, like I updated yours. You were good to get back to me. Not a lot of people did, so those videos just sit out there. But this time for Infotech and in the fall when we do Heartland Developer Conference this year, I really tried to make a run at, okay, I limited myself to about 15 videos, so I wouldn't get too many. Because I can do 10 in a day, and 20 is way too many. And I try to get 12 to 15 in there. But 2, every night, just produce 1. And so if you go out to theaverageguy.tv/infotech, INFOTEC 2014, that's where I've been posting at least since I've been making individual posts for each one of them. There's actually some really good interviews out there. So guys, if you're listening, you need a little more content. They're only 20 minutes. They're only on YouTube. I didn't make audio for them because that's a whole nother process. They're not in a feed. You have to go out to the site and get them, right? But if you got some time, head out there, give me some feedback on them. But that's those things. I mean, again, 1 a night is kind of what I've been doing, 1 or 2 a night, and you really got to commit to this stuff, some of this stuff, if you're going to go all in depth. I think with the blog, the commitment drops a little bit if you're going to just do some writing, and you can drop that stuff in there. Before we go any farther, we did get some feedback from the chat room, and I do want to get that in there because I appreciate when you guys say nice things about us. And so let me pull that up. It says, so Jeff left a real nice comment. I was asking about why I podcast, and so Jeff Bundy says, Jim, you and your guests and your program are authentic, so I appreciate that. Very transparent. You're very genuine, and you haven't been bought by any products or services. Now, Michael, you mentioned you don't have any ads on your site. I have 1 ad space, and then actually, if you go to theaverageguy.tv, in the very top, there's a rotating ad space up there. Actually, that's for Christian. So he hosts my site. Any money we make off that Google AdSense ad, he gets. And it was a great way of kind of revenue or ad sharing with him, and and that makes $10 or $15 a month if you're ever on my site, and if you just click that ad, Christian makes a little bit of money, so you could do that. That wouldn't be a bad thing to do. for us. So one rotating ad site that's on there, but I'm not bot. You're not either, right? If you like a product, you say it. If you don't like it, you don't like it, right? Because you don't have, I never wanted, this is why I did the Average Guy Tech Scholarship Fund with Amazon. I wanted to buy the gear and just send it out. I didn't want to hound the vendors for crap. Now, we've talked about this
Yeah.
before. They just send you stuff, right? You don't
Yes,
necessarily.
I get that. I get stuff in the mail, and whenever I get those items in the mail, um, so I'm given those in the mail, but a lot of the times it's kind of expected for me to say really nice things about it. And so, even though I think we talked about the Firefox
Firefox
OS.
phone, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's the last one left in the country that you got right
so
there.
this was one that was sent to me, and we've actually done some stuff with it and everything like that. But the thing was that there was really no expectation that I would, you know, say this is an excellent product. Everybody should drop their iPhones, their Windows Phone, their Android phones, and go buy this. I blogged about it, but I blogged a lot of pictures about it. Obviously, I talked a little bit about the development part of it. But yeah, so I do get those other ones. There has been a company that I guess will remain nameless that sent me something and totally expected a good review. And if I didn't give them a good review, that they would no longer be sending me anything. So I had just kind of responded back to them that, hey, if I like your product, then I'm going to say good things about it. If I don't like it, then why would I mean, say this is great unless I totally want to sell out, which if I do that, then people don't trust me, and then when people don't trust
Right.
me, yeah, they leave me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that spins the thread through the comments, right? Is that we're not bot, right? We're not always trying to push product. And one of the advantages of this tech scholarship fund that we do, if they purchase on Amazon and use our link, then I turn those funds around and buy stuff for folks to review, or I buy stuff and review it myself, right? It's one of those kinds of things. I haven't had a lot of time to review, but I've been buying stuff, but that's what we do. Now I feel a lot better about it when I buy it, you know than when somebody sends it to me, and it just feels
It's
cleaner, and it just feels, we've reviewed, I've reviewed, I bought this phone, this wasn't sent to me, I bought this Android phone, this was right. We did a battery. Eddie Ramirez in chat was just saying he bought the battery. We talked about Power Rocks weeks ago now. They didn't send me any gear. We did send some gear out to one of the listeners to review that I didn't review, somebody else did, and he gave it a review. But even then, when they sent it, I felt like, let me buy it.
yeah,
Let me buy it so that there's no obligation.
and I mean, so Pebble, Pebble watches. That's another one that I really enjoyed at the beginning, but today I don't wear it anymore. I don't use it. A lot of those reasons are because it just completely kills my Bluetooth. And then, of course, they made a new Pebble watch that was the still version. You can change the bands. I know with the first generation version, what I've got, but it was one of those things that I bought it myself, so I can obviously, go back to Twitter and I can tell people, this was crap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and I don't feel bad about that. I
Exactly.
don't
I
feel
mean,
bad if I bought it and it sucks. You say it, and you just it's. I think it's sometimes it's disingenuine. Well, we've all done it. I've done it too. I've had stuff sent to me that I've reviewed. So I'm not calling the kettle black, but it's just so much easier when you are in a position where you just buy it and not have people send it to you, or like you do, you just say, hey, look, it's going to be what it's going to be, and then
it's
they'll probably stop sending it to you at that point.
so that company, when I told them that, they have never sent me anything since. And what's really bad about that is that I actually had positive things to say, and they were sending me gear that was worth about $1,000. So I would have liked to have continued the relationship, but obviously I'm not going to say everything that they produce is perfect and wonderful and great and all. I mean, uh, nothing that I produce is always going to be great and
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. No, that's
I
that's
mean,
one of those things. Yeah, that's one of those things. The another comment that we got out of the chat, too, was, I named this the Average Guy Podcast, or the network the Average Guy, because I feel like I'm an average guy. Like, I think in a development arena, you're above average, right? You're a really good developer. I could never do a lot of the things you do. But there's a lot of guys like me who just marvel at, wow, look at all that. I wanted a podcast that got down for the average guy, right? And so we asked that question a lot here on the show. So what does this mean for the average guy? It was just really convenient that that it worked out that way. But so that was another comment from chat. We try and get average guy stuff in here, and I think, Michael, you've done a nice job in the 3 times I've had you on of really keeping it for the average tech guy, right? We get a little techie, probably a little more than we should, but you keep it nice, nice and level. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, it's that thing, So one thing I'm going to just say straight up is that there's a great post by Scott Hanselman, which is a developer. Some have probably have heard his name. He's fairly well known in the Microsoft development community, and it's about being a phony. And he talked about himself. And I'll just say this: I mean, I've never ever ever felt like I was an exceptional like coder, programmer, developer, or anything like that. Because everywhere I have been in my life, I've always found somebody that was better and smarter and knew more than me. And what I have always done, my strategy is to attach on to those people. And
Me too. Me too, by the way. Find people smarter than myself and interview
oh,
them. That's what we do here.
well, at work, at work, I'm surrounded by the absolute best of the best. I mean, the people that I work with are on the jQuery team, which is used absolutely everywhere. A lot of the people are ex Microsoft employees that have had big roles in Microsoft, to other people that have started or had several startups that were very successful. They were even sold to major companies like Google. And I work with these people and I chat with these people every day, and I learn so much from them. And I remember when I worked locally, when I was in a meeting and every single person was kind of looking at me to give the answer, I knew pretty much immediately at that point that it was kind of time for me to move on, because I really believe that where you work, um, it's a good thing to be one of the dumbest guys in the room. Because you will grow and grow and grow. And, my 3 years that I've been at Telerik, um, you know, I can say that obviously I've been promoted, and things of that nature. And there's a lot of guys that's on the teams that, well worthy of things of that nature, and that will be coming to them. But you know, being surrounded by smart people is good, and it's good to be the guy that's in the meeting or on a conference call or whatever, and be completely confused about like what are they even talking about, because there was a saying that was something that I saw on LinkedIn, and it was said something to the effect of if somebody asks you to do something, answer yes, and then figure out how to do it later. And that's something that I believe that I do almost every single day.
Yeah, yeah, no, right on, right on. It's because we tend to want to go, no, can't,
Yeah.
I can't do it. There's no way, especially in IT. It's funny. We're in Omaha, right? That's where I live, in Omaha, and I've worked in some places where they've called, whenever, especially when it's around the United States, and they're calling back in, they're like, "Are you guys in Omaha?" Like, because we would say no so much to things, and we have that rep in IT, and I think you're right. I'm building this learning studio at Gallup that I have no idea what I'm doing. I mean, some of it's all going to be based on what we do with podcasting, so it'll be cool. But there's obviously some things that I don't know anything about, and I just think, well, when I get there, I'll figure it out. You know?
And that really is the way to look at it. And I had a slide in my presentation, and so before I can say that I looked at things maybe as like a problem when I really should be looking at them as
Mhm.
an opportunity to grow. And that I found, so for example, if you had told me 3 years ago that I would be writing Objective-C, iOS, and speaking at a conference that really has the elite iOS developer, I would say you're completely out of your mind. And when when it came, when the opportunity came up, it was like, well, who wants to cover this, or who can cover this? And I volunteered immediately, having n- no clue. I didn't even own a Mac, and I volunteered to write code to run on these devices, and I didn't even own a Mac. And you know, that was
It puts you in an opportunity sometimes, and you can burn yourself too, right? I mean, in
you
that
can.
situation, you can get a little too deep, but it's one of those things that you've got to take some risks, I think, associated and say, yeah, I'm going to try something even though I have no guarantee it's going to work. I mean, when we started podcasting at Gallup, I knew how to podcast. I didn't know if it was going to work in the enterprise, right? I didn't know if they would trust me enough to let it run in the enterprise. And it's done very, very well. I'm building this learning studio. Nobody knows what this thing's going to look like, and
Well, and
we keep adding pieces to it, and I just keep hoping. Well, I just hope it gets to live another day. Another day.
it's so you add on this stuff, and so you're adding on additional skills,
Right.
and you're adding on additional worth that you are for your company and for yourself. And we all know that you always have to invest in yourself and in your own things that you're passionate, you care about, and things of that nature. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just this anyway. That's just what
Well,
I've
I
done.
think it's a good point. Kevin Schoonover, one of the guys in our community, he's been on the podcast a lot lately, and I just really value his opinion. Super smart guy, and I too, right? I just surround myself with smarter people than me. But Kevin stepped out. We all on the home server side, a lot of us have bought those Gen 8, those HP Gen 8 boxes that we're turning into home servers for whatever reason. And he came up with this metal plate that would extend the functionality of the hardware so you could put two additional drives in there in a place that wasn't meant for the drives, right? And he had it designed and fabricated, and then he had them, he went, had it sent to a sheet metal shop, and they made
Wow.
how many of them, and he sold them, right? You think, wow, I mean, that's not his job, right? That's not what he does, but he saw what needed to be done, wanted to learn something new. I bet he learned a ton of stuff through it, right? You
Oh
just
yeah.
can't be afraid, right?
Oh, and you can't be afraid. And the thing about it is that so we always underestimate what we're actually capable of. So, and nothing will like kickstart you except for when you really need to do it. So, my daughter had a lightsaber, and so did my son. And so, obviously, well, my children are 6 and 4. So they were fighting with each other with it, just like I've completely trained them to do. And so they're having a battle. Obviously, I'm helping the 4-year-old. She needs a little help here and there. And so my son just whacks the stick pretty hard, and whacks the other lightsaber, and the light goes out. So so my daughter obviously wants her lightsaber working again. Dad's to the rescue. So what do? I come downstairs, and I find my soldering gun, and I open that thing up, not knowing. nothing about it at all. And I haven't soldered something since I was like 17 years old. And so, needless to say, I have zero, no experience, or haven't had experience in all these years. And I'm able to put it back together and make it light up again, and put it all back, and she's completely happy. But it's a lot of things like that, things that originally. So let me just put it like this: if it had have been my lightsaber and it had a broken, I would have more than likely tossed it, and the next time I was at the store, just bought another one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
have even attempted it.
No. Well, and I think there's lots of opportunities, if I'm speaking to 90% of my demographic, which is guys like you and me, right? Kids, older, and their kids are older, whatever, but that's our demographic. I think we know there's nothing that makes you work harder than being a dad, right? Or being a mom.
Yeah. Oh.
In that case, and you find things to do. But I find stuff at work all the time like that, of opportunities. And I'm going to name this the Soft Skills Podcast, because you mentioned that earlier in the podcast, and really all we've talked about. We jumped on here, had a few things to talk about that were going to be tech related, but we ended up, and this is fine. I'm actually really glad we went down this path, talking about some of the soft skills needed in some of the things we're doing around technology, and not being afraid. I think of Rich O'Neill, who you don't know, but Rich has been a part of the community for a long time, and Rich has stepped out of his current. No, I shouldn't say stepped out, but has stepped out of his comfort zone and is doing some things with an internship and really trying to change his career. I think I'm safe to say that, Rich. If I not, sorry, but really working on some IT stuff, and it's been hard and it's been uncomfortable. We haven't seen a lot of Rich in our community because of it. He's been really, really busy working in school, but he's taken bull by the horns, and he's going after it. And I think sometimes that's in the tech arena. If we're not satisfied with what we're doing, I think you got to take the bull by the horns and make some things happen. You mentioned doing some iOS development. Yeah, starting podcasting at work or doing some recruiting. I didn't hire me to do recruiting at work, but I found out I was pretty good at it, and so I started doing it, and it's worked out. We've developed a college internship program and a high school internship program, and it's turned out really, really well. So, well, Michael, let me cut us off at that point. We're going to run over on time.
Okay.
Just not really. Stay around for the post show. We're going to talk. We can talk a little bit more in the post show. Let me wrap up the live portion, because I do need to put this out, a recorded version of it, and the longer it is, the harder it is for me to get out there. So let me wrap things up, and let me just say this. Let me just say this. I appreciate you, the listener out there who listens to this each and every week. I don't say thanks enough for you guys for downloading it, for you guys to listen to it, for you guys supporting the AverageGuy.tv Tech Scholarship Fund. Just using the AverageGuy.tv/Amazon as the way you do that. Set a bookmark. We're actually going to set a record month, which is crazy that April was a record month. I thought December would be that, but April was a record month. And so you guys continue to do that and support the podcast, and that way we turn those dollars around. And like I said, either we purchase it for somebody who wants something, or I purchase something and review that technology as well, or do some upgrades, to keep the podcast alive. Every once in a while I need to buy new things like cameras and stuff. And so to continue what we do from a podcast perspective, your support, I always appreciate that you guys use. You don't have to use that link, but you do, and I appreciate it. I mentioned it earlier that we did a bunch of infotech videos, and if you want to see something different, it's still me doing the interviews, but there's so many different things. As an example, I just released one where we talked about patent trolls, and I had 3 patent attorneys. How often, Michael, do you get to talk to 3 patent attorneys who specialize in technology? Doesn't happen ever, right? I got the opportunity, 20 minutes, very interesting.
That's very
conversation. Cool. Yeah, head out to the AverageGuy.tv/infotech, INFOTEC 2014. That link will be in the show notes. And right now, as of this recording on May 1st, I have about 8 of those done. I'll have about another, I think I have another 8 more to go, including one of the keynotes that's coming up, Matthew Monahan. He'll be coming out here in the next day or two, so you can head out and do that. I am contemplating, we mentioned Azure, one of those projects, Michael, that I'm not supposed to be doing because I don't know how to do it, but one of the things I'm going to do is set up a web service on Azure that will allow me to actually stream video. So some of you have asked me, hey, we'd really love to have downloadable video. Today you have to get it through YouTube if you want to get it. And ever since the beginning, I said I'm never going to provide a video RSS feed. It's just too hard. It's too much work. It's too expensive. Well, Azure did a little thing this week by dropping their storage prices by 65%, right? Just
Wow.
65% off the top at Azure. And I thought, okay, if there was ever a time to try this, I'm going to try it now. So over the next couple weeks, hopefully, I will be setting up a web service out there as well as a storage container that I will be dropping these, these videos that we're going to make. I'm going to crunch them down so they're not too big. And you can, and I'll give you a separate RSS feed that you can grab. And so if you're interested in getting the RSS feed that's video, Tim Kimperly would be one who asked me for that particularly, and a few of you have over the last couple of years. And I've always said, sorry, not going to do it. I am going to try. Kind of watch the site or send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv, and I'll try and let you in on that, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not guaranteeing anything. If it gets really expensive, I may not be able to afford it, but I want to do it on Azure because I want to. That's the only way I'm going to figure this thing out, right? And that I'm going to add that to that seminar, that standing, seminar topic that I'm going to put together, and that will be one of those things that I can talk about when I go on my tour, my conference tour with Michael. Hey, maybe you and me, rock stars out there.
Hey, I'm game.
on the circuit, hitting all the big ones like WWDC and stuff.
I'm game. I just went and checked HTC looking for their dates. It does not say when they are actually having it. Do you know?
I'm not sure they know yet. So yeah, exactly. You know what? I got an email. Hold on, let me see.
I was going to say it's not on their site right now.
Then it's probably not official yet.
So if you say it, then they're going to get all mad at you.
And I won't. But they have a new company. They have a new company that's running HTC this year.
AIM.
Yep, AIM out of Omaha.
AIM.
Yeah. The AIM Institute. They're the same ones that do Infotech. So, and I kind of have wrapped up the exclusive rights without signing a thing. I have wrapped up the exclusive rights to podcasting live there.
Yes.
Their conference, which is awesome. They give me a booth, and we go in as Gallup, and we recruit while we're there, so it blends in with my job. It allows me to do it during the day when at work, because it's a recruiting event for us in a lot of ways, and we get a lot of great material that works great for my blog. Talk about killing a couple birds with like one stone. It not only helps them, but it helps me. It's SEO for my site. It's great information for you guys, the listeners. It helps us from a recruiting standpoint. It's been a dynamite. See, I just need to talk on that, right? Social marketing.
I just went to their site, and they actually have a call for speakers. Well, I thought I saw it. Call for speakers button or session.
You'd think I'd be a shoo-in, wouldn't you? If I submitted, using blog. It'll be a title like using blogging and podcasting as a social marketing engine for future growth or something like that, right? Maybe the listeners can help me with a title.
I think that would be absolutely awesome. Yeah. I went through and I did find it, and there is tips and tricks. There's also best practices categories, emerging technologies categories. There you go.
So if they don't take it, it's okay. I'm still going to go there and podcast. But that's I think a seminar that I'm going to build and then submit to various conferences like South by Southwest. That'd be a great one to do at South by Southwest. I've been trying to get. The other thing I'm thinking about doing is I've got, with Gallup on the strengths coaching side, I've got a gal who focuses on millennials, and so she's going to be out here in 2 weeks. Gallup is doing a customer summit here in Omaha that I got invited to. And we're going to meet for we're going to do a coaches meetup before the conference even starts. But I'm going to talk to her about how do I add technology into her session and how do we do it together, right? Cool. So because she's speaking at she is submitted for South by Southwest.
Well, even this one allows you to present with others.
Yeah.
There's an option here to present with others.
Yeah.
And most of them are allowing that now. Now it's just figuring out when they are actually having it.
Yeah.
I just went to their Twitter account and I didn't see it there either.
Well, I tell you what, in the post show, I will spend some time looking up. I've got an email from them, and I will spend some time.
If you're sponsoring, then they definitely will probably have already sent you the dates. If we are sponsoring, I don't unfortunately get those emails. So
Well, maybe they're holding off at this point, just waiting till they get everything final. So we won't bore the listeners with that. With that, well, this will end the live part of the podcast. We are out here every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out at theaverageguy.tv live. I'm in a little bit of a pickle because I haven't scheduled anything past tonight, to be honest with you. Typically, I'm 6 or 8 weeks out, and I'm going to have to do some scrambling this week. But, Michael, thank you I scheduled you way out in advance this time. I think we had you 6, 8, 9 weeks ahead of time. This
what happened was that I think it hit on a travel date. It was weird because it hit. I had a couple of weekends that was in a row, and so I think it hit like the normal Thursday, Friday, Saturday type of things, and I just couldn't make it. So
yeah. Well, no, it's always good to have you back. I enjoy our conversations.
I love coming back.
Yeah, I enjoy our conversations. Okay, I've got that email open. Hang out. We'll talk about it in the post show. We'll be back again, even though I don't have any idea who's coming on next week. We will have a podcast next week, I think. And if you're listening to this after the fact, you really don't care, so it doesn't matter anyways. We're out here at theaverageguy.tv/live, 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. I've said that a million times. Not sure why I got it wrong that time. 9 Eastern out at theaverageguy.tv live. All right, that'll do it for the live show. Thanks, everybody. Stay around for the post show. Good night.
Bye.